Mr. Cawthorn now from North Carolina. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Madam Chairman, thank you very much. My questions are going to be directed at Mr. DeCamp. And Mr. DeCamp, thank you for being on. To all my witnesses, really thank you for being on. First I want to touch on this idea of imposing the 40-hour work week on farmers. As someone who's worked on a farm in Western North Carolina when I was much younger, I realized that the hours you have to work are very, very long. And it's very difficult for these farmers, especially those who pick specialty crops, to be able to have more workers to spread around because it takes a significant amount of training. These workers have to be trained on how to work the systems, especially if they're in a packing house or if they're on picking any specialty crops. Can you discuss, something I really want to touch on is, I believe that after the global pandemic that we've been through, we saw during the beginning of COVID-19 how difficult it was to get a lot of the resources that we had offshore manufacturing to other areas. If we start imposing this 40-hour work week and we bankrupt all of our farmers, we will essentially be offshoring all of our food processing and food resources to other countries. And do we not believe that this would be a terrible national security threat, Mr. DeCamp?
I don't claim any expertise on national security. I think generally it would be a bad idea to bankrupt the farming industry, but what effects that might have on national security, I have no idea.
I understand. Okay, so now let me ask you in regards to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It prohibits employment discrimination, but this only applies to employers with 15 or more employees. The Title I of the Americans with Disability Act also only applies to employers with 15 or more employees. The domestic worker bill we're discussing today includes an astonishingly sweeping provision applying Title VII of the Civil Rights Act to any employer with at least one employee, reducing the employee threshold from 15 employees to one. Mr. DeCamp, can you discuss the radical nature of this change and what it would mean for small businesses in the United States with respect to litigation risk and compliance costs?
It would be a big change with regard to exposure. I mean, part of the reason why you don't have typically these laws applying to small businesses, at least at the federal level, is the Commerce Clause issue. It's at that level when the businesses are that small, they're typically very local. But also there's a sense that the compliance costs for small businesses, they don't have the kind of sophistication that you typically see with larger businesses. They don't have in-house counsel, they don't have in-house HR staff. They don't necessarily even know what these laws require until they run afoul of them. And just the transaction costs of defending a demand letter from a plaintiff's lawyer could put a small business out of business. And so there are lots of good reasons why Congress has seen fit not to apply most of these laws to very small businesses.
Well, thank you, Mr. DeCamp. And in closing, I would encourage any of my Democratic colleagues on this committee to please come to my district and visit a lot of the farms in my district. You will see the hours that are required to work, and it will become abundantly clear to you that if we impose a 40-hour work week on these farms, it will bankrupt our farmers who are absolutely necessary to the survival of our country. With that, I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. The gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Stevens, you recognize 5 minutes, ma'am.